What's the point in going to college anymore if none of these college grads can get jobs? I mean, this has been going on for years now. I think people should wake up and smell the roses that a college degree might not be all that it's cracked out to be anymore. Um, that being said, I know it's hard to get a job if you have the experience too. So who's to blame? What's to blame? Apparently, AI is to blame. I'm not sure. We're going to go ahead and dive in and find out what the real issue is. But before we do, if you're new to my channel, my name is Jennifer Zero. I am sharing my unpopular opinion on most of today's cultural hot topics, like this one. If you would like to see more content like that and you're new to my channel, give me a subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Don't be afraid to buy your cup of coffee, and let's go ahead and dive into it.
For college graduates, finding that first job was a rite of passage. Now it's something much more and much less pleasant. New York Times reporter Jodi Kantor's got an upcoming book, How to Start, which looks at the difficulties these college graduates right now are finding as they try to begin their career. Here is some of my conversation with her about those difficulties and how artificial intelligence plays into them. As bluntly as you can describe it, tell my audience what the typical college graduate encounters with looking for a job and artificial intelligence as an intermediary.
Thank you so much for asking, because for people like you and I who are older, it is so hard to understand what they're facing. I actually want to read you something that a student wrote because I want to do it in her voice, not mine. This is from Alejandra Diaz Pizarro. She graduated from Columbia last spring, so great student, great school. To describe the feeling of applying for a job right now, she said, "The main way I describe it is demoralizing. It's spending days infinitely tweaking your resume so that whatever AI screening bot is doing the first round culling won't immediately toss yours out. Even talking to a real person on the other end feels like an achievement. It feels like tossing your materials out into a void, pressing send on applications, the majority of which you'll never hear back from, while hearing from the news, from the adults around you, and from your peers just how bad the job market is." And Major, what I really want to stress is it's the lack of interaction with real people that is so disquieting, because we've been through a million down economic cycles before. This is a little different. Not only do these students fear that AI is restructuring the economy and wiping away entry level jobs that used to exist, but when they apply for jobs, it's really hard to talk to anyone because AI is doing a lot of the interviewing in the first rounds. So they describe it as dehumanizing, degrading, and discouraging.
I wouldn't go so far as to call it dehumanizing and degrading, but disappointing, discouraging, absolutely, I understand. But we shouldn't be talking about this like this is anything new. I mean, this was going on when I was in the job market. This was going on in 2019, 2017. I know it was going on even earlier than that for some, like, if you wanted to work for some major companies out here where I live, like Boeing or certain pharmaceutical companies, they've been doing this for quite a long time now, which is understandable. They're very large companies who get a plethora of job applications. They needed to figure out a way to speed up the process, I'm sure. But even me, I'm not a college grad, but certain jobs I was applying for, I had boatloads of experience and I wasn't looking for entry-level jobs. And I became tuned in to the fact that companies were doing this, like little trick of the trade, basically turning your resume and your cover letter into like an SEO friendly document that their systems would be able to scan through and see if you were using the same verbiage that they used in the job posting, or things like their motto or brand description, things like that, so that it would go ding, ding, ding in the system. Okay, we'll push this out to a real person to read it. And that was difficult and very frustrating. I agree with those sentiments. It's hard to talk. It was hard to talk to a real person. I'm sure it's even more difficult these days, especially for the types of jobs some of these individuals are probably applying for. That was not in my field or my category. But it's been going on for a while now. This is nothing new. I'm surprised college grads don't know stuff like this already. I mean, I feel like you should be talking about applying for jobs and being taught stuff like that in high school, even earlier, of course. And I'm surprised a lot of people's parents don't know this for the companies they work for. So I'm curious to see what else she has to say about this.
And Jody, I would imagine some of these students might try to turn to AI, to talk to AI to help them through this. Does that happen?
Exactly. You've got it. There's like a computer to computer dialogue happening here where students are told that they have to essentially game their resumes for AI. So the cover letters they're writing, Major, are not the ones that you and I were taught to write that are meant to be.
But I just had to pause right there. Guess I'm an old fogey now. I remember like pouring my heart and soul into my cover letters and putting so much thought and detail and how I described certain things, and taking a class in high school from a college actually about writing cover letters. And now it's just make it as SEO friendly as possible, which is boring and disheartening.
Friendly and insightful and engaging. They're like formulas that are designed to hit certain things. Then those resumes are talking to the employers side of things. And also what I've learned is that neither side really likes this, because if you're an employer and if you're looking for a promising young person, first of all, you're getting 800 resumes at a time because the technology is enabling young people to kind of mass apply for things, even things that might be wrong for them. And second of all, employers are saying, how am I supposed to differentiate? How am I supposed to figure out the best human being for this position through this kind of technological fog?
I just gotta put it right here though. If neither side likes how we're doing things, maybe it's time to change how we're doing things, and think outside of the box on how you can stand out. She mentioned, and again, I understand why companies are doing this. Like she said, they're getting 800 plus applicants. I can think back to my last position, being able to see when they opened up a new position for that, how many people actually applied, or hearing through the grapevine how many people actually applied. And it's, no one person can sift through all of those resumes and find the best candidate. I totally get it. But to me, that just shows where we have an issue. We have an issue in what types of jobs people will and won't apply for, right? There's got to be a lot of jobs out there people won't apply for or aren't going to school for, and too many on the other side. And then she said something that to me was always a huge no-no. You personalize. You individualize every single resume and cover letter you send. Unless you're some kid trying to get your first job and you're applying to like every fast food chain there is out there, and you can just zip out your one-page resume. You don't even need a cover letter for those kinds of jobs. That's different. We're talking about real jobs here, real like career paths. Not to knock anybody that's 14 and 15 and trying to get the first job. I commend you for doing that, because a lot of kids these days at the age of 25 still have not had a job. So thank you for trying to join the workforce. Very young. Appreciate it. But you know, if that's what these kids are doing, okay, I used enough keywords for this job. It must be the same for all the others. I'm just going to send it off. No, that is a huge no-no. So that's part of the problem too.
And is there something that students in this place they find themselves in can do, or are they adrift in the first phase of the AI revolution and floating like some sort of cork on the sea, and there's almost no agency for them to get out of that predicament?
I've become obsessed with that question, and I feel like we all have to help because things are so hard. I feel like we need to bring these students, these graduates, these 20 somethings, everything we have, not with any false optimism or kind of slick advice, because that will get us rejected immediately. Um, but with time tested wisdom that can help them face these challenges. So I wrote a book about this. I did it kind of in my spare time. I couldn't stop writing, but I have covered employment and the workplace for my entire career. And as a mother and as a citizen and as a witness to what was happening, I felt like we need to help this generation.
With that experience you just mentioned, Jody, is this time different? Because I hear routinely it's no different than any other jarring moment of technological advancement, but I'm not sure that's correct.
I think you're right. I don't think we'll see. We don't know all the answers yet. But really, the way this project started was that last year I gave the commencement address at Columbia, and it was an assignment from the students. And it came with a really hard question. As journalists, we're connoisseurs of questions. And man, I thought this one was tough and good, Major. They said to me, how are we supposed to figure out our life's work in this crazy environment? And they weren't only talking about the mess at Columbia, they were talking about AI. They were talking about the fact that things that felt like steady bets, like law firms or computer science degrees, didn't feel so secure anymore. They were talking about the fact that this generation was told to rush towards the promise of STEM. Well, now those computer science jobs aren't available. Labs were dismantled with the president's budget cuts. They also said, this is really sad. They said, we know it's time to look for bosses and mentors, but our faith in authority is weak. So they gave me this challenge of saying, Jody, tell us
Wow.
what to do. And so I summed.
Wow, I just got to pause it right there. I'm interested to hear what she says about that. I'm shocked to hear kids admit that. That's great that they're admitting something like that. I agree. I don't think AI is just another blip on the technology timeline, growth timeline. I have my own thoughts and opinions about AI, but what I'm really hearing these kids say is, how do we find our purpose in life? How do we find our role in life that's going to give us a deep sense of fulfillment that we're going to be able to work towards year after year after year after year? And I think that's great that they're asking that, but we should be pointing them in the direction of their home life, of their role as a husband or a wife, as creating a family, as bringing them back to those traditional roles and values, because no job or career path is ever going to give you that level of fulfillment, that level of security, that level of purpose that will. So we need to start bringing that back to the conversation. We need to start shifting society and how we view our role in society back to that. That should come first. This should come second, especially for women. But I'm curious to hear what she says about this authority stuff. And also, why are these kids' parents not giving them any sort of words of wisdom or connecting them to mentors? Why are the colleges not having any sort of programs where if you are going down, I don't know, let's say this mechanical engineer career path or something like that, where there's some sort of mentorship program already lined up for them, or it's part of their project. They have to go work with a mentor or shadow some. Why is that not a thing? I mean, when I was in high school, that was kind of a thing for certain paths. Also, hopefully, kids will start to wake up too that college is not the tried and true guarantee anymore. I mean, college is a joke in a lot of ways. We'll talk about that in another time, what they're teaching kids. But you got to go back to what keeps the country running and keeps the country alive, and that's those blue collar jobs, those trade jobs, and for women, it's also those trade school jobs they're never going away. They're not going away, until the robots take over. They're not going away. They're always going to be there. They make great money. They're consistent. You work hard. You get skilled at your craft. You use your hands. You sweat. You touch physical things. You're not just like here all day, staring at a screen all day, hopping in a meeting to talk about future meetings, to schedule more meetings about meetings. I mean, I've worked for some startups before, and the meetings about meetings can be endless, but let's see what she has to say.
And everything I knew as a reporter through making my own way. I wrote them the best speech I could. More students came to me after the speech, and I finally said to myself, I am sitting down and I am writing a manifesto and a pep talk intended to give these students the best possible shot at work of meaning. What I'm disturbed about is that their sense of aspiration is diminishing. We can't give up on the idea of work. First of all, work is how we spend our time. It's how we make.
I don't know specifically what conversations she's had that bring her to believe that the goal of aspiration is diminishing. Of course, I don't think that's a positive thing, but maybe some people are starting to get a bit of a reality check that we all can't aspire to be like the top level types of surgeons just because that's what's most glamorized, looked up to, and pays the most. Maybe we can aspire to what society deems as a lesser than career or lesser level of the career, because maybe it's not about getting all the way to the top. Maybe it's about getting here and being the best expert here as I can as possible, making the most difference as I can here possible, because this level needs people to fill those jobs too. I just a little food for thought there.
Money, obviously, to support our families, but also work is our engine of collective progress. I mean, if we give up on work, who is going to invent new cancer therapies or make a show like this one?
Exactly. Thank you for that, Jody. Well played.
Kids, CBS needs you.
Please say that 6 or 7 more times. Just weave that in the next half hour. Jody and I talked about so many other things, and among the things we talked about, her entry-level job search trauma, my entry-level job search traumas, and so much more. You can catch the rest of that conversation on your favorite podcast platform.
Okay, interesting conversation. It's tough. It's tough. The job market's tough. The job market's been tough, but maybe it's helping kids get a wake-up call that life is not guaranteed. Certain things aren't guaranteed. Just because I have this degree or this stamp next to my name, nothing's guaranteed. And I'm going to have to work hard, and I'm going to have to not give up. Things aren't guaranteed. I'm not going to receive something as fast as I possibly thought I would. At the same time, I do hope we're also waking up to college isn't all that it's cracked up to be. All of that debt, all of those years memorizing stuff isn't necessarily what makes you a qualified candidate for certain jobs. And I think about what my husband might have to say about this conversation and the type of guy that he is. And he's the type of guy, and I don't see kids with this type of like gusto behind them or energy behind them anymore. It's all, they're raised on computers. I was raised on a computer, so I get it. But this doing what they can in person. I mean, he's the kind of guy back in the day, he was passing out flyers everywhere, stapling flyers to telephone poles, word of mouth, networking, going to go shake hands with business people in person, always telling people about what he's doing, showing up at different events or different locations just so he can spread the word, right? And people don't do that anymore. So maybe it would behoove some of these students to march their little tushies right in the door of these businesses they hope to work for. Ask to speak to the hiring manager. If they can't, okay, show up again tomorrow. Be annoying. Be the face that everybody's going to remember. Make your resume colorful. I used to be a copywriter, so don't write it in the typical resume format. Write it like you are speaking to that actual hiring person. Send them flowers or something. I mean, just get creative, get gritty, keep pushing forward. I think honestly, a lot of times kids aren't coming up with that idea to be like that, be out of the box, or doing things like that in general. And even if they thought about it, because they actually deep down inside don't want these jobs. They're just going after them because that's the bright and shiny thing that they're supposed to do. That's what would make their parents proud. That's what they went to school for. That's what pays really well, makes them seem really, really smart. But deep down inside, they'd be so much more fulfilled if they were a farmer or a welder or a hairstylist or, I don't know, something else than what they're going after. So we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Have you struggled to get a job? What do you think of this AI resume takeover business? Let me know. And again, if you enjoyed this content, please give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and don't be afraid to buy your girl a coffee, because with a 5-month-old building a YouTube channel, it's a lot. I'm very sleep deprived, and coffee is what runs through my veins right now. So I greatly appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.